Hey y'all, what's up? Good afternoon and welcome to the GI Justin channel. Today I've got all kinds of cool stuff I want to talk to y'all about, especially a couple of things that are kind of touching off what we talked about yesterday with the central bank digital currency and some other ideas on what's going on with that. I've had a talk with some very smart people and we've come up with some other things to talk about when it comes to that. So that's pretty cool. First thing I want to talk to you about, it looks like there's another Norfolk Southern train derailment, this time in Springfield, Ohio. They're telling all of the residents there to shelter in place as they ascertain the hazards of what could be another crazy train derailment. They're saying preliminary reports are that there's nothing to worry about, but hey, they told everybody in East Palestine that they could go on back to their homes too. So I'm really interested to see what goes on with that. And you know, kind of one of the questions I have there too is this is like the fourth train derailment in a month. Like, can these dudes? I mean, trains have been around since like what, 1840? Something 1830, yeah. Why can't they operate these things safely? And where is the National Transportation Department on this, making sure that they're operating safely? Like, I don't understand why we continue to have these problems. They should be doing something about this stuff. So, you know, I don't understand. They continue to have these derailments in the shelter in place. Like, can we not track the trains better that might have hazardous material on them and maybe keep them maybe a little safer, try to do some extra steps that'll maybe keep this from happening every 2 weeks? Just saying, just a hunch. You know, the thing I think about when it comes to this whole shelter in place thing is I feel like the shelter in place thing is something that we as Americans are getting, unfortunately, used to. I mean, how many times have you heard shelter in place other than like a tornado and a hurricane over the last 4 years? How many times have they said, hey, everybody, just stay home, everything's going to be fine? I think we're getting significantly too used to this. I mean, it didn't seem to work out that great with this East Palestine stuff to shelter in place in your house originally when you were being showered with toxic, hazardous chemicals. But that's what they told everybody to do, and that's what they did because we're being trained over and over that when they say shelter in place, well, I believe my government. I'm just going to go inside and ride this one out. Yeah, that a lot of people that doesn't work super well for. So the thing I really want to dig into today, and this is what I hope you guys will tell me what you think in the comments, because this is my concern when it comes to this continued shelter in place stuff. Right now, they're just asking you to shelter in place, but what happens when this central bank digital currency is a reality in America and they say shelter in place and they can use a shelter in place curfew where they say, hey, everybody in your house by 6 p.m. or we're going to shut off your ability to access your money. It's central bank digital currency. We own it. We control it. We're going to say, hey, you know what? We noticed that it looks like you tried to spend some money at Home Depot after we told you were supposed to be home. Boop. Yep, look at that. Weird. Your money's all gone. Next time you should listen to the government. That's very freaking problematic. I mean, that is the root of the opposite of everything we stand for as Americans. I think they could freeze your assets. They can restrict your ability. We talked about it in yesterday's video, and I'm going to link the video right up here. But they plan to restrict your ability to buy certain items, only allow you to buy certain amounts of certain items, and then they can track through the central bank digital currency what you're spending your money on, so they can use basically surveillance on you as a free, mostly law-abiding. We'll go with mostly law-abiding American citizen. I think that's super scary, because if you don't do what they say, that gives them the ability to take your money back. Yeah, if they say, hey, curfew's 8, you're out. Well, guess what, y'all? You screwed up. We're going to go ahead and take half your assets. Just because they want to, because they control your ability to have those assets in the first place. So I think that's something that is just crazy to me, that they have this thought in their mind that that's where we should be going. So along these lines, I mean, it kind of hits the echoes of when coronavirus was here, where they said, hey, you need to get this vaccine, especially military guys, you need to get this vaccine or you're going to get fired. Okay, so I'm not going to get into the politics of personal choices on vaccines. I leave that one to you guys, but that's the thing, is my ability to work is now based on your desire for me to ingest something I don't want to ingest. I don't know that my job should be at risk. If I choose to say no, hey, I'll sign a waiver, whatever I want to do. If I choose to say yes, cool, I'm a company man. Either way, I shouldn't lose my job over it. But that's the thing, is this has the echoes of that. where it's shelter in place, or get the vaccine, or buy the right food we want you to buy using the money we want you to use, or, and same thing like we've talked about the last couple days, the social credit score. Be a good boy on social media, donate to church, donate to charity, do these things. We'll give you a real nice high credit score. Do exactly what mom and dad tell you to, and we'll give you access to more money. That's not what we're built on. I mean, unfortunately, in a lot of ways, people waste tons of money in America doing absolutely dumb stuff, buying things that they never should for things that they don't need. But you know what? It's America, baby. That's what we do. You do what you want to do. It is your right. If you want to be an idiot with your money, be an idiot. And I think the thing that bothers me the most on this same line is it basically gives them free access to surveillance, where since they own and process the currency and can track it, they can actually track what you're spending your money on. They can surveil you, watch where your money moves, watch what you do with it, and on top of that, make sure you're paying 100% taxes, because they can, if they can track all that, it'll be the end of straight cash transactions in America. When guy comes to your house to cut some trees down or whatever, he'll say, oh yeah, your price for that is $2,000, but it's $1,600 cash. Okay, that's because a lot of these people that work in straight cash economies where they're trying to feed their families need that extra bit of money. Is it ethical and logical? Not necessarily, but you'll end all cash transactions altogether because the government can surveil and track those transactions because that's the only money you have. The next thing about this central bank digital currency that I have a real issue with, it will put the government in control of all business transaction. Lobbyists are destroying America. I mean, that is a known fact. Every politician in in Washington is owned by all of these corporations and companies that they have promised legislation to and said, hey, okay, cool. If you donate $100,000 to my election, what I will do is ensure that when your bill comes up for debate, I think I know how we'll vote on that. I think we'll be good to go. And that's the thing that I find is scary about that, because the preferred status for these businesses where central bank digital currency will only be spent is based on that specific idea. So it's really interesting that these lobbyists are going to be able to do that, where they're going to be able to go to the government and say, hey, maybe a little larger percentage of these people's digital currency could maybe go toward eating at McDonald's. Maybe just bump that up a little bit, and we'll donate some extra money to your reelection fund. Maybe a little bit more money headed that way, perhaps. That's scary to me, man. I mean, what are we going to do in that case? What are you going to do when the only way you're allowed to eat is if you spend your money at the specific place the government wants you to go? Another complete overreach and another control item that you won't have because the government's going to force you to use what they want you to use. And in that same vein, they can also do the exact opposite, where these lobbyists can be whispering in the government's ear, in legislature's ear, saying, yeah, what about our competitor? We're McDonald's. Is there a way that you could kind of bump us up, but at the same time take Burger King and make it so people can spend less money there? I think you can freeze businesses out to the point that people won't be able to go to these businesses because they won't have money through their central bank digital currency account, but then magically they have twice as much to go somewhere else because the lobbyist has paid off the politicians. Magically, there we go. The central bank digital currency is such an overreach of the legislative branch, and very possibly, looking at the way he's talking about these things, the executive branch of our legislature. It's ridiculous. I mean, if this were to be something, it would be the biggest step in the history of America of making America un-American. And we're seeing ripples of stuff like that right now. The last thing I want to talk to y'all about today is perhaps something that I think is something, another one of those things I never thought I would see in my life. And how many of those are there now where you can look at your kids and say, you know what? I never expected this. I mean, we had 9/11, the housing crisis, Corona, obviously, all of these things where it's just like, well, never expected that. I never expected to see Americans storming the Capitol building. All these things, it's just massive pile of all these things where it's like, you know what? I never thought I would see this. Here's another one. This thing's called the Greater Idaho Movement. So counties in eastern Oregon are basically putting a ballot measure on the ballot to secede from the left-wing politics of Oregon and join Idaho. They believe that Idaho is much more conservative and a better place for them, so they want to break free from Oregon and become part of Idaho. They're requesting formal talks about moving the boundary line of the state because the people in those areas are upset with the way Oregon is being run. And, you know, if you do any research into what's going on with Oregon, other than perhaps California, it's probably the most radically reactionary leftist state we have in the country, where homelessness, drugs, crime, just they've taken beyond the laissez-faire approach to governing and turned it into just a lawless nightmare. And these people that live in Oregon are like, yo, just drag that line over and pull us into Idaho. We believe in the Idaho way of life much better. It really goes to show you that there's so many people who are so tired of this. You know, they're so tired of the way things are going that they're literally wanting to be part of a different state than the one they live in. What does that say about this and the just the flux of America right now, where there's such like division and pulling left and right away from each other that there's no middle ground left? There's no statesmen, stateswomen, statespeople fighting for us in Congress and Senate. All they want to do is pander to their electorate and make sure they get reelected, versus actually come to do things for America that are beneficial. I mean, obviously allowing rampant drug use, homelessness, criminals allowed to steal from businesses, and the cops know they're not allowed to chase these people. The criminals know it. And that's why all these businesses are seeing, including Walmart, who just reported their fourth quarter earnings, said that theft from Walmart has reached a level that it has never seen before. I mean, we're talking epic levels. There was a lady who was finally arrested after stealing $25,000 worth of product over like a 2-month period, where she would just grab her stuff, put it in her cart, wheel herself out of there, and no one chased her. No one did anything. The police didn't notify anybody to chase this woman down. She just kept on doing it. It was just her own personal shopping space to just load her cart up and boop, out she goes without anybody giving the first rip about it. That's not America. That's not what the people who make America great want. So even though this bill is not likely to pass, most of the representatives are saying just logistically, it is fairly impossible. Yeah, fairly impossible. But the fact that it's even a measure on the ballot about, you know, seceding from one state to move to another because they are so bad you can't deal with it, that says a lot about where we are as a country and where we are not going that we should be. So I really want to know what you guys think about this stuff. So you've been doing an awesome job of throwing a bunch of comments in the comment section, which I love, because I love to interact with you guys and see how you think. And in a lot of ways, it makes me feel better knowing that there's a lot of people out there who want to talk about this stuff and find solution to all these problems, because they really are a big issue right now. So thank you guys so much for watching. There's going to be a little helicopter down here, a little circle with a helicopter in it. That's actually me flying in Afghanistan. And if you push that little button, it will hit subscribe. And I really definitely appreciate those things, because it helps push me toward making more awesome content, because the more you subscribe, the more it tells me what you guys like to watch. So thank you guys so much for watching the channel today, and I really appreciate it. Have a great day.